So, I want to talk about accidents. Now, accidents are accidents. They are not abuse. And where accidents are rare, that's where you want horses to be. That means you're doing things right. It's impossible to prevent accidents 100% of the time, but we do have a pretty good safety rating here with our carriage horses. In the last 30 years, there has been one horse that was killed tragically in a traffic-related accident nearly 20 years ago. It's not really common to happen in cities where cars travel at slower speeds than they would in a rural area. Unfortunately, incidents like that happen more often. In history, we have not had a single human death in the industry. That's over 150 years. Injuries are pretty uncommon when we do have incidents happen. More people have been killed by falling trees in Central Park than carriage horses. But again, they can happen, they sometimes do, and they sometimes will. That will happen absolutely anywhere, with anything, with everything. There's human error, equipment can fail, there's horses making mistakes. It's bound to happen, but for us it is a rare occurrence. It takes a lot of quick thinking when you are a carriage driver to make the safest choices you can. Occasionally they're not always going to be the right one, but we have people that have been doing this in this industry for a very long time, and we go through training to go over the best practices here. And luckily, people are not usually injured, as I mentioned. And when injuries do happen, it's not usually with the general public. It's actually with carriage drivers, because they are the ones that will do anything to try to rescue their horse from any kind of danger. And unfortunately, that means occasionally putting themselves in danger to do that. So when injuries happen, unfortunately, they usually happen to drivers themselves because they are protecting everyone else. And accidents usually happen with horses that are new to the industry. Eventually horses will pass away and horses will retire. So there will always be a time when a new horse has to come in. And the training period kind of goes through phases. So for most horses, it's a couple of weeks or a couple of months. You will always have a second driver with you in that situation so that they can go to the horse's head to keep them calm or direct any traffic if they have to. They always come here from a background of pulling something, whether it's a plow or a cart or whatever, carriage. But they have not always been accustomed to such a busy city, even if they are traffic safe and have been driven into town. So that is something that we get them prepared for. And the period it takes for a horse to earn, a partnership with you is a lot longer than that initial training period. It really could be a year or more until that is a really fully seasoned horse. So it's perfectly safe to operate the horse before that time, but while you're operating that horse, you're gaining your partnership with them so that if something does go wrong, and you always hope it doesn't happen during that period, you will be able to assess that situation quickly and get everything back under control very quickly, because your horse has decided, my person keeps me safe, I'm with my person, I'm going to listen to them. And you de-escalate pretty quickly. If you look at the few accidents and incidents we have had happen over the last 5 to 10 years, they were all, or majority of them, with horses that were new. Some on their first day, some in their first couple of weeks. And when things go wrong, the horses don't know who to turn to that they trust yet. And that's why it's more difficult to get that under control faster. And that's why you want to keep a horse that's been here a while healthy and happy, because it's very stressful to train a new horse, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of money and energy. And that's the point that, things are most likely to go wrong if they will. So that's the very touchy point, and that's the reason that it's so valuable to have a horse who has been here for a while and is a seasoned horse, and that's why you take such good care of that horse. You don't want to have to start all over again. And the reason that every little thing with our horses makes the news is because it's so rare. You know, how many car accidents do you see in the news every day? But how many are actually happening? The fact that it doesn't happen that often in New York City is why it makes the news every time. Our horse freaking sneezes and it winds up on the front page of the New York Post. You know, if you're a horse person, think about the last time your horse spooked at something. When did that make the news if you're not here in a populated city? So we unfortunately have to deal with every little thing being publicized all the time. And that gives people this impression that it's happening more than it is, because this stuff stays on the internet and gets shared a million times and is always out there because they're reporting on things that aren't really always news. And the other thing I don't get is every time any incident happens to anyone, every time they bring up banning carriage horses entirely. Like, what do me and my horse, who's been here for 5 or 10 or 20 years, have to do with someone else's incident? I haven't had an accident. Why can't I operate anymore? Or all these other 100 guys. And we have 150 to 300 drivers in this industry, 68 separate horse carriage businesses following the same regulations, and over 200 horses. So when something happens to one, or 10 or 20, if it, in the last, 50 to 100 years, say 20 instances of something happening, why does that mean that other 180 horses can't work here anymore? The ones that have been here for 15, 20 years with, nothing going on, why shouldn't they be allowed to work? What do I have to do with these other people? Why would you ban an entire industry because of a rarely occurring incident? We don't ban cars every time there's a car accident. And that happens a lot more frequently. And that happens, in a lot worse situations most of the time than what goes on with us. So the whole thing is, every time I can never get a word out with my horse. This is Scout again. We've met Scout before many times. I swear he can see this screen and he gets so excited when he's on it every time. Anyway, yes, accidents are not a sign of abuse. They do not happen often here. And unfortunately, they are unavoidable from happening 100% of the time. And we do have pretty good records even when you do see things in the news.